For topic 3, we're going to talk about the mode, which is really quick and easy. There's not a whole lot to it. As a definition, let me go back to the yellow. I did forget to highlight or bold print, but the mode of a data set is the value or item that occurs most often. It shows which item occurs with the greatest frequency. So which has the highest frequency in your data set. So you can have just one mode where you have a data set that's unimodal or unimodal. You can have a data set with more than one mode. If it has specifically two modes, we would call it bimodal. If it has more than two modes, you would call it multimodal. And then you can have no mode at all, which means no data item occurs more than the rest, okay? So you don't have to put your data set in order, though I do find that if the data set is in order, it is especially easy to see what the mode is, okay? So while it's not a requirement for these three examples here, I'm going to go ahead and put my data set in order. So for the first data set, we have 3, then 5, then 8, then 8 again, 9, and 10. And by putting your data set in order, it's really, really easy to see that the value 8 shows up more than anything else. So every data item occurs one time, except for 8, it occurs twice. So 8 is the number in the data set with the highest frequency. So the mode here, we would say is 8, okay? In part B, we would take the data set. Again, you don't have to put it in order. It's just nice if you do because it's really, really easy to see. So we get 3, 3, 5, 8, 8, and 9. So you can see 3 shows up twice, but 8 also shows up twice. So we would say this data set is bimodal. It has two modes. So we would say the mode here is 3 and 8. Okay? And they both show up twice. So if you have more than one mode, those data items have to show up the same number of times and more than everything else, okay? And then finally for C, we have 3 and then 5 and then 6 and then 8 and then 9 and 10. You can see here each data item shows up only once. There's nothing that shows up with a greater frequency than any other data item. So for the mode, you do have to be really careful here. You don't want to say that the mode is 0. Okay, because to say that the mode is 0 would indicate that the data item 0 shows up the most often in your data set. And you can see in this data set, we don't have 0 at all. So instead, you want to put no mode, or you could write for the mode, you could put something like not applicable. Okay, but you don't want to put 0. You want to say there is no mode, not that 0 is the mode. Okay, because that becomes confusing. All right. Now, just for fun, I didn't do an example with a frequency distribution here, but let's look at the two examples prior to this that did have a frequency distribution. So I get that it's kind of messy here, but looking at the example 5, part B, where we had the frequency distribution, we had scores or data items of 42, 43, 46, 51, 52, 54, 55, 56, 60, 61, 64, and 69. And then we had frequencies of 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Is there a frequency that is higher than everything else? And the answer to that is yes. Okay, the data item of 51 occurs 3 times. Everything else in the list occurs either once or twice. So we would say here the mode would be 51. It is the data item that occurs most often. You don't want to list the frequency. You don't want to say 3. You want to say the actual data item is the mode. So 51 is the data item that has a frequency of 3, which is greater than everything else. And then if we go up one more, I think, yeah. So in example 3, we had a frequency distribution. We had data items of 30, 33, 40, and 50. And then we had frequencies of 3, 4, 4, and 1. So in this case, this data set is bimodal. It has two modes. All right, the modes are the two that have a frequency of 4. So the modes, the data items that would represent the mode are the ones that have a frequency of 4. So you don't want to put the frequency of 4. You want to put the actual data item that has the frequency of 4. So we would say the modes here are 33 and 40. Okay, so that one is bimodal, and then the one down here was just unimodal. unimodal, unimodal, however you want to say it. It just has one mode. And then down here, you can see we had three examples, one where we had a single mode, one where we had two modes, and one where we didn't have a mode at all. Okay, so I do find that most students are at least semi-familiar with mean, median, and mode. The next and last video for this worksheet, we're going to talk about something called the mid-range, which might be a little bit new for you.